The sun was sinking behind the desert line, turning the Burkinabe sky into burning gold, the kind of sunset that makes even soldiers fall silent. President Ibrahim Traoré's convoy rolled down the dusty road, engines humming like a tired heartbeat. It had been a brutal day at the northern border, visiting camps, reassuring elders, checking on grain stores, pushing stalled supply trucks with his own hands when the roads failed. Yet, in that exhaustion, there was progress. A broken well now flowed again. 2 villages had received their first clean water in months, and families who once slept hungry finally had sacks of grain stacked by their doors. Inside the back seat, Ibrahim flipped through his notebook, pages full of plans, worries, promises. "Double the grain for Kosuka and Tao," he murmured to his aide, "and send 2 nurses with the next convoy. Hunger and fever together, they kill faster than bullets." "Yes, sir," the aide replied, scribbling quickly as the convoy entered Ouagadougou, alive with evening noise, vendors shouting, radios singing, motorbikes slicing through traffic. And then, Ibrahim saw her, a young woman barefoot, standing under a lonely neem tree, one hand on her swollen belly, the other holding a small bowl with barely a handful of coins. People brushed past her like she was a shadow, unseen, unheard, forgotten. "Stop the car," Ibrahim said instantly. "Sir, this area." "I said stop." The convoy groaned to a halt. Guards stepped out. People gathered, murmuring, confused. But Ibrahim didn't wait for protocol. He walked straight toward her, and then did something that froze the entire street. He sat down beside her, on the curb, the dust settling around his boots, lowering himself so their eyes met at the same level. A gasp rippled through the crowd. "Is that really him?" "My sister," he said softly. "Tell me, why are you here? And your child, how far along?" Her lips trembled. 6 months. I have nothing. I stand here until my legs shake. People don't even look at me." "And your name?" "Mariam," she whispered. "I don't want charity. I just want this child to live." Ibrahim looked at her bowl, cold metal, a few dull coins, then at her tired face. "Come with me," he said. "We will eat first." But the woman stepped back, shaking her head. "No, people will laugh. They'll say I pretended to suffer just to sit in your car." Ibrahim's voice deepened, firm and warm like a father speaking to his own daughter. "You bring no shame, Mariam. You bring truth. And I'm not taking you to a palace. I'm taking you to a table." Her eyes searched his, trying to find a trick, a catch, a lie. She found none. Finally, she nodded. A guard gently helped her inside the car. As Ibrahim closed the door, he glanced at the empty neem tree, the place where she had stood invisible just minutes ago, and something inside him shifted. Tiredness left him. A deeper purpose replaced it. "Sir," the aide whispered nervously, "we could have sent someone later. This area wasn't safe." "If it isn't safe for a pregnant woman to stand on the street," Ibrahim replied, "then it isn't safe for me to drive past her with my windows closed." The aide lowered his head. There was no argument left. The convoy turned away from the grand gates. No palace, no cameras, no ceremonies. Ibrahim walked Mariam into a quiet room with a simple wooden table and a wide open window where the night breeze carried the smell of hope. But neither of them knew. This night was about to reveal a truth that would shake the entire nation. A steward pushed the door open quietly. He placed bowls of rice, steamed vegetables, spicy sauce, soft bread, then stepped away with a small bow. Ibrahim dismissed him with a gentle wave and sat directly across from Mariam, not as a president, but as a brother. "Eat," he said softly. Mariam looked at the table, then at him, then at the food. "It feels wrong," she whispered, "like I've stepped into someone else's dream." "This is your seat," Ibrahim replied, his voice steady and warm. "Hunger does not respect titles, and dignity does not belong to the rich alone." Slowly, her trembling hand lifted a piece of bread. She took one bite, then another. Her shoulders relaxed, color returned to her cheeks, and her breathing steadied like a tired bird finding a place to land. For the first time in months, she wasn't fighting for survival. She was simply eating. "What is your story, Miriam?" Ibrahim asked. She traced the wooden table with her finger, a small movement, but one that carried years of pain. "When I found out I was pregnant," she began, "my husband, Yakuba, laughed so loudly that the neighbors came running. He said if it was a boy, he would teach him to ride a bicycle the moment he could stand." She smiled faintly. "And if it was a girl?" Ibrahim asked gently. "Then he said he'd buy her 2 bicycles," Miriam whispered. "He said girls deserve more." Her voice broke. "One morning he left early. A truck had broken down, so he took another road. There was an accident." She swallowed hard, fighting the memories. "At the hospital, they asked us to pay for a scan. We didn't have enough. My friend ran out to borrow money. When we came back," her lips trembled. "It was too late." The room fell into a heavy, painful silence. Even the wind outside seemed to stop moving. "With his small job, we at least ate," she said. "After he died, the landlord demanded rent. My friends tried to help, but they had their own families." She wiped her face quickly, embarrassed to cry. "I stood on that corner because I had nothing else. I hate begging, but I want this child to live." Ibrahim leaned forward, elbows on the table, eyes filled with something deeper than sympathy. Grief, anger, and responsibility all mixed together. "Miriam," he said quietly, "I am sorry. Sorry for the road. Sorry for the hospital. Sorry for the silence that swallowed you afterward. People keep telling me to be strong," she whispered. "But strength costs money. You will not beg again." His voice was firm, almost like a vow carved in stone. "That is my promise. Not for cameras, not for applause, but for you." Miriam looked up, her expression torn between hope and disbelief. "People promise many things when cameras are on," she said softly. "But when the lights go off, they leave." Ibrahim tapped his chest. "The only camera today is here, and it follows me everywhere." Tea arrived, steam curling between them like soft clouds. The air grew calmer, warmer. "Miriam," he said, "if tomorrow you could work with dignity, truly work, what would you choose?" "Work." She blinked rapidly. "You mean a job?" "Yes, your dream." Her eyes lit up, shy, cautious, but real. "Since I was a girl," she said, "I loved flowers. I memorized their names from an old neighbor. Hibiscus, bougainvillea, jasmine." A soft smile appeared on her face, fragile and beautiful. "I always dreamed of a small flower shop. But dreams," she exhaled deeply, "dreams are too expensive for the poor." "Dreams should not be a luxury," Ibrahim said. "They should be a right." He leaned back. "Eat your bread, Miriam. Tomorrow we walk a street with empty shutters. And we will open one." She stared at him, fear and hope wrestling in her eyes. "If this is a joke, let it be a kind one." "It is not a joke," he replied. "It is a beginning." That night, Miriam slept in a clean guest room, the first safe sleep she'd had since her husband's death. Meanwhile, Ibrahim stood by his office window, staring at the sky. The stars looked like scattered salt, bright, countless, untouched. But his mind wasn't on the stars. It was on a woman standing barefoot under a tree. It was on a child who had already lost a father. It was on a system that had failed both. He picked up his phone. "Find a small shop near the market," he told his chief of staff. "And call the florist by the mosque. Ask if she can teach for a month. Also hire a doctor. One who will visit a pregnant mother every week without fail." "Sir, there will be talk," came the hesitant reply. "They'll say this is just for a story." Ibrahim smiled faintly. "Let them talk. I am not doing this for a headline. I am doing it for a child." The week that followed was a symphony of hammers, brushes, and hope. A narrow shop on a busy street was scrubbed clean. Walls received a fresh coat of white paint. A carpenter built shelves that smelled of new wood. A sign writer painted each letter with slow, loving strokes. Miriam's garden. Flowers and hope. When Miriam arrived, she stood frozen in the doorway, hands over her mouth, tears burning at the corners of her eyes. Auntie Rukia, the old florist from the mosque, appeared behind her carrying buckets of bright flowers. "I hear you are stealing my customers," the old woman teased. "Good. This city needs more color." Ibrahim did not come with cameras or security lines. He came quietly, wearing simple clothes. He picked up a bouquet, red roses, mint leaves, and chrysanthemums. "I'll buy the first bouquet," he said. "Business begins with hope." He placed the money in the tin box, then winked at a little boy who stared at him wide-eyed. A grant covered the rent. A doctor named Salif promised weekly checkups. And at the back wall of the shop hung a handwritten note. "We sell flowers, not dignity. No bribes, no shame, no debt." For a few days the world felt lighter. Women bought garlands for weddings. A teacher bought pots of jasmine for her classroom. A taxi driver bought a single rose. "My wife thinks I'm not romantic," he laughed. Business grew. Little by little, customers smiled. Colors filled the street. And Miriam's belly, once a symbol of struggle, now represented a future blooming. But in every story, light attracts shadows. Hope awakens jealousy, and success invites danger. And while Miriam arranged petals with trembling joy, something dark was already moving toward her shop. Someone who believed her rise was an insult. Someone who planned to take everything from her, again. And when that moment arrived, Ibrahim Traoré would face a choice that would test him more deeply than any battlefield. Business was growing, hope was growing, and Miriam, for the first time in months, woke up each morning with a reason to smile. But life has a habit of testing those who dare to rise. It happened on a Wednesday morning, the kind of morning when sunlight warms the shop like a blessing. A man in a black leather jacket walked in, leaning on the counter with a smirk sharp enough to cut. "Nice shop you've got here," he said. "This lane has rules. Pay the safety fee, and nothing bad will happen." Miriam's hands froze. Her throat tightened. "I don't have a safety fee. I have a business and a baby." He tapped the wooden counter with one finger, slow, mocking. "Everyone pays." Before Miriam could speak, Auntie Rukia stepped forward, fire in her eyes. "She pays her taxes like everyone else," Rukia snapped. "She will not pay you." The man chuckled, a cold, joyless sound. "We'll see," he whispered. He walked out, the door clicking shut like a warning. That afternoon, the electricity cut out. The flower fridge warmed. Petals began to droop. By evening, social media buzzed with poison. Palace pet given a free shop while families starve. President's puppet pretending to be poor. Pity performance funded by taxpayers. A local blogger mocked her. A clerk claimed her business permit was missing a stamp now strangely 5 times more expensive. Miriam's hope cracked. She cried in the back room, trying to muffle the sound. "Maybe I should close," she whispered. "Maybe this was too big for me." Rukia held her hands firmly. "You worked harder in a week than some men do in a year. Trouble found you on the street, and you didn't give up then. Don't give up now." Dr. Salif arrived for the weekly check. He found Miriam wiping tears behind a crate. He listened to the baby's heartbeat, strong, steady, determined. "Your blood pressure is high," he warned. "Drink more water. Rest when you can. And when trouble knocks, call this number." He pressed a card into her palm. That night, Ibrahim walked into the shop in plain clothes. He bought a tiny potted plant, green and alive, almost symbolic. "How was your day?" he asked. Miriam told him everything, the extortion, the rumors, the missing stamp. She braced herself for anger. He was angry, but not loud. His voice was steady, controlled, dangerous. "Tomorrow," he said, "2 things will happen." He lifted 2 fingers. "First, we file a police complaint about the extortion. Quietly but firmly. Second, we launch a pilot program." She waited. Hope flickered. "Small honest shops," Ibrahim continued. "No more illegal fees. No bribes. No threats. He leaned closer. If a shop is harassed, we send a lawyer. If a permit is delayed, we unstick it. If lies spread, we answer with facts. This is not charity, Miriam. This is government as it should be. She breathed deeply. And if they laugh at us? Let them laugh, he said gently. We'll be busy selling flowers. The next morning, Miriam arrived at the shop and stopped in shock. Someone had spray-painted words across the shutter. Palace Girl. A slap meant to shame her. By noon, 3 neighborhood women stood outside with arms crossed, shields made of courage. She's one of us, they told anyone who passed. You want to insult her? Go through us. That evening, a student posted a video. I bought a plant today. The owner used to beg in the sun. Now she pays taxes and even hired her cousin. This is the politics I want. The video spread like wildfire. And the man in the leather jacket? He never returned. 3 months passed like a slow, beautiful song. Mondays, Miriam bought fresh flowers at dawn. Tuesdays and Thursdays, children gathered to watch her craft bouquets. Fridays, she closed early for prayer. Weekends, weddings, funerals, celebrations, sorrows. The city was full of both. Dr. Salif visited each week. Your iron is low, he warned. Eat beans, greens. You carry weight and worry. Put one down. He taught her how to count the baby's kicks, how to breathe slow when fear squeezed her heart, how to trust life again. One evening, just as she closed the shop, a man appeared at the doorway, cap in his hands, eyes soft with memory. I am Musa, he said. I was with your husband the day of the accident. I carried him from the road. Miriam's hands gripped the counter. You were there? He nodded, voice thick. He told me your name while we waited for help. He said, tell Miriam I love her. Tell her to keep the dream. Miriam's knees weakened. Tears came, not the kind that drown, but the kind that wash. Thank you, she whispered, for carrying him, for carrying his words. 2 weeks later, long past midnight, the pains began, sharp, rhythmic, unstoppable. She called Dr. Salif's number. The ambulance started toward her, but construction blocked the road. At that exact moment, Ibrahim was in a budget meeting. His phone buzzed. He listened. He stood. We go. No hesitation. The convoy tore through the sleeping streets, sirens replaced by urgency in his eyes. They reached the shop just as a neighbor pounded the shutter. Inside, Miriam leaned against the counter, breathing in short bursts, hair damp with sweat. It hurts, she gasped, then laughed softly through the pain. I know that's obvious. Still feels worth saying. It is worth saying, Ibrahim said, holding her hand. You will not face this alone. The ambulance finally arrived, and with it, a twist. The paramedic stepping out froze when she saw Miriam. It was the same nurse who once demanded money at the hospital the day Yakuba died. Her eyes filled with regret. I remember you, she whispered. Pain and anger flashed across Miriam's face. You told us to bring money for a scan, Miriam gasped through a contraction. When we came back, he was gone. The nurse's voice cracked. I know. I told myself the system forced me. Maybe it did. But I hid behind that. Please, let me be different tonight. Let me carry you now. Miriam looked at Ibrahim. He nodded softly. People can change. They lifted Miriam into the ambulance. The siren wailed, cutting through the night like a prayer. At the hospital, bright white lights flooded the hallways. The smell of antiseptic, the sounds of rushing footsteps. The world spun fast. Labor was long. The pain was fierce. At one point, the baby's heartbeat slowed. Salif entered, calm, steady, unshakable. Look at me, Miriam. Breathe here. Again. Good. Again. Hours passed. And then, at 3:17 a.m., a cry rose. Sharp, fierce, beautiful. A baby boy. They placed him on her chest. Miriam laughed and cried at the same time. Yakuba, she whispered. You told me to keep the dream. Look, it opened its eyes. Ibrahim stood at the door, hand over his heart. The nurse wept quietly in the corner. "Thank you," Miriam told her. "Tonight you were different. Stay that way." The nurse nodded. When morning sunlight touched the hospital window, Ibrahim arrived with dates and milk. "What will we name him?" he asked. Miriam smiled. "He will carry his father's name, Yakuba, so the road learns to apologize. And he will carry your gift too, Nasir the helper, so he always remembers what help looks like." Ibrahim laughed softly. "Then welcome, Yakuba Nasir. May your life be longer than our complaints, and your heart quicker than our excuses." The very next day, Ibrahim gathered his ministers. He didn't sit in the leather chair. He stood beside a large map pinned to the wall. Sleeves rolled up, marker in hand. "Find me the corners where people stand with empty bowls," he said. "Not for cameras. Find them for work." This was the birth of the Dignity Initiative. Explained in simple human words. Step 1. Find need. Volunteers, elders, nurses walk through towns and villages, listing families at risk, widows, single mothers, abandoned elders, disabled workers. No one ignored. No story dismissed. Step 2. Give tools, not pity. Grants and training. Carpenters, tailors, bicycle repairers, peanut pressers, and yes, flower sellers. Step 3. Health with honor. Free care for mothers. Weekly checkups for children. Clear clinic fees so no one got cheated. Integrity desks inside hospitals. A hotline for those too afraid to speak. Step 4. Transparency. Because help loses meaning when hidden in darkness. And all of it began with a barefoot woman under a neem tree. Every Friday the nation waited. Not for speeches, not for slogans, but for a simple ledger. A book of truth. On its pages, money in, money out. Projects started. Projects failed. Babies born safe. Mothers saved. No filters. No excuses. No hiding. The people trusted it more than any politician. But politics does not stay silent for long. A storm was coming. One morning, a party spokesman smirked on live television. "If the president likes flower shops so much," he laughed, "maybe he should open one for every woman who cries." A cartoon spread across newspapers showing Ibrahim watering votes, not flowers. On the radio, a loudmouthed host mocked. "So, will the Dignity Initiative pay for weddings too? Maybe even honeymoons?" The jokes spread faster than the truth. Inside the government, old corrupt habits woke up like sleeping snakes. Permits still required bribes. Lists still accidentally dropped names. Complaints piled higher and higher like mountains of shame. The fight for dignity was only beginning. And Ibrahim knew the enemy he faced was not hunger. It had a far uglier face. Corruption. Familiar, smiling, patient, powerful. But he refused to lose. So he went live on national TV. Not with guards, not with a prepared speech, but with a simple chalkboard. He drew the national budget. Then he drew the cost of 10 flower fridges. Then the cost of 10 funerals for mothers who died in childbirth. He turned to the camera. "Tell me," Ibrahim said quietly, "which is cheaper, hope or loss?" A caller phoned in. "Mr. President, my sister still had to pay for gloves at the clinic yesterday." Ibrahim wrote the clinic's name on the board. "I will call the director today. Next week, you call again and tell me if anything changed." Not everyone believed in him, but enough did. A widow in Zenir opened a charcoal stall. A boy in Bobo repaired bicycles again. 2 midwives in Kaya refused bribes and received bonuses, not punishment. Slowly, integrity desks appeared in government buildings. Tiny islands of honesty in a sea of old corruption. 2 months later, Miriam arrived at the palace carrying baby Yakuba. The little boy wrapped his entire hand around Ibrahim's finger and tugged hard, making him wince. "He is strong," Ibrahim laughed. Miriam replied, "He thinks your finger is a branch that gives fruit." They walked together in the palace garden. "How is the shop?" Ibrahim asked. "Busy," she smiled proudly. "We sell seeds now. Children come to buy them. They like to plant what they can eat." Her eyes glowed. 3 women asked me to teach them flower arranging. We practice after sunset. Ibrahim nodded. Then I'll add teaching grants. When learners teach, learning doubles. Miriam placed her hand on his arm gently. Don't make this program yours alone, Ibrahim. Let it belong to the people. If you fall one day, it must still stand. He took a deep breath. Then we write it into law. Weeks later, Ibrahim sat for a national broadcast. Behind him was a hand-drawn map filled with new projects. Beside him, a stack of ledgers, the nation's memory. My people, he began. A few months ago, I met a woman on the street. She was pregnant. She was hungry. Her husband had died on a road we all use. The studio fell silent. She stood in the sun with a bowl she never deserved to hold. Today she owns a flower shop. Yesterday she gave birth to a son. His name is Yakuba Nasser. He paused. It felt like the names belonged to the entire country. We began the Dignity Initiative because no woman should beg to survive and no child should inherit hunger. This is not charity. This is the state doing its duty, making roads safer, clinics fairer, and tables longer. He opened the ledger. Here is what we spent. Here is what we achieved. And here, he tapped the page, are this week's failures, plus what we are fixing on Monday. A journalist stood up. Critics say you are buying love with small gifts. What do you say? Ibrahim smiled, calm but firm. If dignity looks like a gift, then we have forgotten its price. We are not giving favors. We are giving people back what was always theirs, the right to work without shame, to heal without hidden fees, to dream without permission. Calls flooded in. A midwife thanked him. A man complained about a corrupt inspector. A student asked how to volunteer. Ibrahim answered each call like a teacher fixing broken desks in a classroom. One by one, with patience. When the cameras finally turned off, he leaned back. For the first time in weeks, the tiredness felt worth it. The next morning, Miriam rocked baby Yakuba outside her shop. A woman approached with a folded paper clutched in her hands. My name is Hail Lima, she said shyly. 5 widows live on our street. One is blind. One hides from her landlord. Can you help us write requests? Miriam smiled warmly. Bring them tonight. We will make tea. And if we cry, we will cry into cups we later wash and use again. 2 days later, Parliament debated the Dignity Act. It wasn't perfect. Nothing ever is. Audits were required. Limits were set. Clinics were forced to post fees publicly. Phone numbers for complaints had to be visible at every counter. Some politicians argued. Some delayed. Some smirked. But pressure from the streets, from ledgers, from radios, from mothers standing outside clinics, did not shout. It insisted. And in the end, the bill passed. Ibrahim returned to the border where the whole story had begun. The same dusty road. The same wind. But now trucks carried grain and cement for a training center. A child waved at the convoy. Ibrahim waved back. Near the neem tree, the vehicles slowed. Another tired woman stood there with worry in her eyes. For a moment, Ibrahim feared history was repeating. Then he noticed something different. Nailed to the tree was a small blue sign. If you need work or help, dial 151. If you can offer work or help, dial 151. And beneath it, folding chair. A simple chair so no exhausted mother would stand while asking for help. Ibrahim smiled softly. Small things, big doors, he whispered. That night he visited the hospital. The nurse from the ambulance, the one who had once demanded money, froze when she saw him. I didn't come to punish you, Ibrahim said gently. I came to ask if you will train others to refuse bribes. Her eyes filled with tears. Yes, she whispered. I have debts to repay, to the living. The hospital smelled the same. But somehow the air felt lighter. Weeks later, the final twist arrived. On Yakuba's death anniversary, a depot worker brought Miriam a package. We found this in a locker, he said. Your husband used to load trucks there. He left your name on it. Inside was a notebook, its edges worn, its pages yellowed with time. Miriam opened it. On the first page, in her husband Yakuba's careful handwriting, were drawings of a flower shop. Shelves, buckets, a counter, a signboard. At the bottom he had written, "If I do not get to build this, help her build it." Miriam froze. The world shrank to ink, paper, and the beating of her heart. She kissed the page. She pressed it against baby Yakuba's tiny chest. "Look," she whispered. "Your father kept the door open, even after he left." She framed the note and hung it behind the counter. Customers read it and stood a little taller. Months later, Ibrahim visited quietly. He bought 2 roses. "For who?" Miriam teased. "For the ledger?" "For the ledger," he laughed. "It needs color." "And one for you," she added. "You look like a man who could use a flower in his pocket." He tucked the rose into his shirt. Baby Yakuba slapped the counter in approval. Ibrahim bent low. "Grow strong, little man. When you're old enough, we'll ride bicycles in the square. Your mother will sell us water when we pretend to be champions." "Pretend?" Miriam smiled. "No, Ibrahim. We will be champions." He stepped out into the sunlight. The scent of petals followed him. And under the neem tree, the same tree that once only saw sorrow, the blue sign now pointed toward dignity. The city learned a new habit. When someone stood alone, you didn't look away. You pulled up a chair. You dialed a number. You stayed. No more begging for life. No more buying mercy. Only doors, and hands willing to open them. Because true leadership is not about palaces or titles. It is about stopping for the people everyone else walks past. Real change begins when dignity is treated as a right, not a gift. Thank you for listening. If this story moved you, remember, real change begins with small acts of care. Like the video, share your thoughts, subscribe for the next chapter, and together, let's keep the door of hope open for others.